All right, it's Marauder Monday. In case you haven't seen, there is no Marauder in this garage, which means one, progress has been made, and two, it has now moved on to somewhere else where I can work on it with some of my friends. And now side quest, which normally side quest kind of means distraction and not making progress, but in this case this side quest seems to actually be pushing things along. So more on that later, but we're in the middle of this little life after high school thing that I'm doing right now, and I'm actually kind of in talks with a couple different organizations who I was either a beneficiary from while I was in college or was in a program with them and kind of trying to do some promotional stuff to help promote their programs. So with all that going on, we're just gonna keep going with that. So frame rails are painted on the truck, suspension's back under it, it rolls on its own, and now it's time to get the engine out to put the new transmission behind it and then dial in axle, ride height, front suspension, get the front wheels and tires on it, all those things, see what transmission cross member modifications need to be made, see if the drive line needs to be shortened a little bit, all those things. So those are happening, those are underway, and that's just still seems like a lot. But anyway, we left off kind of talking about working at the mechanic shop out of high school. So speaking of side quests, after I'd been out of high school and working in the mechanic shop for about a year and a half, I decided for religious reasons to go and serve a mission for the church that I am a member of. I went and learned a new language, went and lived in Madagascar for a little under 2 years, and side quest, right? Amazing experience, things I never would have expected to do, see, learn, any of that. Tried to kind of keep the pinstriping going while I was doing that. Made a brush from my own hair so I could kind of practice. Those are stories for another time. But while I was out there, I got a chance to meet with somebody who was kind of serving as like a mental health advisor, counselor, doctor to the area, and his name was Dr. Taylor Hartman. And if that name sounds familiar to you, he wrote what is called the Color Code. And Color Code's one of those books that's kind of like a personality test quiz, kind of gives you ideas of who you are, where you fit in, what your personality is, who you get along with, and what things are important to you, what motivates you, what is stressful for you, all those different things. So there's red, yellow, blue, and white. And we got to meet him, and then beyond kind of this little training course he did, he was doing some breakout interviews, and I got a chance to sit down with him one-on-one, and he just he had me figured out in like 30 seconds and kind of looked at me and he's like, what are your plans? Like, what are you doing after this? And my goals were to go home, work on my truck, and go back to work at the mechanic shop. And if the right girl came along, then all right. But it was mostly centered around what I wanted to do and cars, and no real big future plans, because like we'd already talked about, after high school, there just didn't make any sense to go to college to me and pay for it. He looked at me and he said, I don't know why you have to keep trying to convince yourself that you don't need to go to school. He says, instead of using all this mental energy to convince yourself not to go to college or go to school, buckle down, use that brain of yours for like 2-3 years, go get a degree and do something that's going to benefit you and your future family in ways that just going home and working on your truck's not going to do. And thought about it, decided maybe he was right, and next thing I knew, I was emailing my mom from the other side of the world. If you look at Utah on the globe, over here in North America, you look at Madagascar, it's like the exact opposite side. I'm emailing my mom, it's the middle of the day there, and it's like past midnight at home. I was like, hey, what do you think about enrolling me in school? She's like, what? I just had a conversation, and maybe this would be a good idea for me. So I got enrolled in a local kind of just 2-year community college, came home, immediately dove in, started doing general classes and everything, and was kind of planning to transfer and go to an automotive program immediately after that. After my first semester, I had just like a business fundamentals class and an accounting class and then a couple others, and accounting kind of stood out to me. I kind of enjoyed it. It was more organizational like than it was like algebra or calculus, like trying to like problem solve and like work through formulas and stuff. It was more just like put the numbers in the right place and it all works out. It seemed pretty great, right? And I was kind of given some advice around that same time, like, you know, you want to do cars, you want to have cool cars. Like if you go work at the mechanic shop, you're going to be so burned out of working on everybody else's cars from all day. You're going to go home and not even want to look at anything with wheels on it. And I was like, are you sure? And I was told yes, because I've seen it with other people that I went to school with. So the advice I was given at that point was go to school, get a good job, and then have the money to have the toys and do the things you want. So in accounting, you're thinking, oh, you know, you could work your way up, go the CPA route, be a controller somewhere, CFO, all those things. And it was like, oh, this could be really cool. And I was approaching, let's see, how does this all go? It's been a minute. So about halfway through my first year of college at the business school, I was working 2 part-time jobs and then pinstriping on top of that to try to just stay busy and get through things and help pay bills. And Courtney and I got married I was probably 1.5 years into school, going on 2 years, getting my 2-year degree, my associates in accounting and business. And I had left working part-time at the mechanic shop during school to do an accounting internship at a big like national corporation's corporate office in downtown Salt Lake. And like I said, I left the mechanic shop to go do that because it was kind of a requirement to get my degree, and it seemed like a really great opportunity. And I accepted that like 2 weeks before Courtney and I got married. I started that job internship, and then here we find ourselves just a couple months into being married, and I was just miserable, right? Wasn't happy with what I was doing, didn't enjoy what I was doing, didn't feel like it was fulfilling, like working on the cars at the mechanic shop that you saw from start to finish, come in with a problem, diagnose it, get the parts, fix it. Customer comes in, oh, I'm so glad you fixed my car, like I couldn't believe it. Sitting at a desk all day, crunching numbers, didn't do that for me. So here we were 6 months, 7 months into our marriage, and I was getting ready to graduate with my 2-year degree and applying for 4-year programs to go do a 4-year accounting degree. And I was just miserable. Come home depressed, didn't want to do anything, didn't want to go out at night, didn't want to do anything really, just sit on the couch and watch TV and go to sleep. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I decided to paint my Volkswagen. I'd set a little bit of money aside before the wedding for paint materials. I had a friend that I'd met at Joe's, Monty, who was willing to take some time after work to show me how to prep the car, fix the dents, and then ultimately come and help me paint the car. And the whole time I was leaving work at the office doing the accounting and then going to Joe's to work on my car in the back shop, like I was stoked. I was excited. I was doing something that I wanted. And then as soon as the car was painted and done and I put it together and I was driving it, like I was excited, but now it was like I wasn't working on anything that was motivating. So I went and I talked to one of my accounting professors who was actually the department head of the accounting program at this school. And he looked at me and he said, you know, from the get-go, I've never really seen you being an accountant or sitting at a desk. He says, you got too many other things you're interested in doing, your background. He says, I want you to look at accounting as a skill and not a career. And I thought about that and I was like, okay, then I've just gone to school for almost 2 years for this, for nothing. He says, no, what I want you to do in looking at this as a skill is he says, I can just tell, you're gonna go back to cars. sitting at a desk, wearing a shirt and a tie, like that's not you. So what I want you to do when you leave here and you graduate, when you go back to cars, is go get a job somewhere small. A small business where you can be close with the owner. Take what you've learned here in accounting and business school, help them run their shop, help them like learn some things, help manage it, help run it, help with those things, but still be out in the shop doing what you love and enjoy. And then, you know, someday if you decide from that experience that you want that headache for yourself of owning the business, then you can step out and do your own thing. But if not, if you see that and you don't want that for yourself, stay where you are and keep growing and helping the people that you're working with. Use that background that you gained in school from this to help grow what you are passionate about. And I thought, all right, that's really good advice. 2 weeks later, he called me back into his office. I thought I was in trouble. He says, I got another project for you. I was like, okay, for which class? He says, this isn't for school. He says, my son and I are restoring a motorcycle that we're just gonna try to flip. He says, I want you to take what you've learned in your QuickBooks classes. I want you to take these motorcycle tins that I've bodyworked and primed. I want you to go to the automotive paint store. I want you to buy the paint. I want you to put in the prep work, paint this for me now that I've seen this car you've painted. And then I want you to use your experience from school and you put together the bill for me in QuickBooks. You charge me for your labor, for your materials, all those things. This is your like outside of school project to bring what you're passionate about and enjoy together with what you've learned in school. I was like, okay. So over the next couple weeks, Monty came out, helped me paint these tins again at Joe's in the back shop, and I ended up pinstriping them, and then I took them back to the professor. I gave him his little invoice with the labor and the pinstriping and the paint materials and everything on it. And it was just a cool little experience, right? Somebody saw I was going to do something else and pushed me in that direction and gave me that opportunity. And then I talked with some family and my wife, and we decided that I needed to probably do something I enjoyed for the next 40 plus years of my career, and not something that was just gonna drain me mentally and be depressing, and you know, in the future when we had kids, just not really give me any energy to be present part of the family. So we canceled applications to 2 or 3 schools, lost several $100s, which when you're working part-time as a student is a significant sacrifice, and ditched the idea of a 4-year accounting program and applied to UVU so that I could enter their auto body and paint program, which I learned later was technically called the collision repair technology and then refinishing technology programs, but ultimately decided to, again, at 25, 26 years old, make a career change. So we've gone from doing pools, doing mechanical things, doing accounting, and now we're gonna sidestep in the automotive world from mechanical to body and paint. And like I said, applied to the next school. It was an opportunity where I could do not only the trade program in the auto body and paint world, but also now take that foundation of a 2-year school in business and accounting and finish a 4-year degree like I'd kind of been advised by Dr. Hartman. Like, go get a degree, go do something that's going to be like beneficial for you and the future of your family. And so fall of 2015, I was still cleaning pools over the summer. Craig was super flexible and awesome to work with throughout the rest of my time in college over the summers and stuff, and then just put my head down and got through school and worked part-time at the collision shops throughout the next couple of years at UVU. And that was the next big step, and that'll be the next one we talk about. But you know, here was some advice like, hey, you know, if you want to do cars, you want to do cool stuff, like just go get a good paying job. And I won't say that that's bad advice. I think that would probably make sense and works for a lot of people, but for me that had already been in the hands-on environment and enjoying that fulfilling feeling that comes from seeing a project from start to finish, it wasn't the right path for me. And so I made another change, and it was probably frustrating for my wife because here we were, you know, I was making okay money in one job, but now to start at the bottom in the body and paint world, you know, at the time it was like I was making like $9 an hour. but I had to go be a prepper and learn how to prep if I wanted to be a painter, and that was the next goal. Where Joe had also kind of said, don't just be a general mechanic like me and take on anything and everything. Go specialize in something. And I'll admit there's some different levels to things, like you're doing show cars and doing collision and doing, exotics or custom paint. Like there's different levels to it, but the underlying foundation, the prep work, spraying the paint, like it's the same across the board. Technique, following the directions of the products and stuff, whether you're doing collision jobs on Hyundais and minivans, or if you are doing bumper repairs on an exotic car like Ferrari or Lamborghini, like the level of quality and attention to detail that goes into doing the job right in the paint world should be the same across the board. And so that was where it was kind of like, all right, we can specialize in something, and it's going to be paint. It's going to be an extension of this pinstriping that I've already invested some time in, and we'll see where it goes. So for tonight, 2-year program was a good introduction to me to see that sitting at a desk the rest of my life was probably not the right path for me, but it was a good foundation to a backup plan in the event that doing cars and painting wasn't going to work out and I had to do something else. So that'll be the next thing we talk about. But for now, it's like exposure to an industry through Boy Scout program, went and apprenticed somebody out of school, out of high school, got some more like introduction, exposure to an industry, and then tried going to just go to school like everybody else and get a degree route, and found that some of it was good, met some great people, made some good networking connections and stuff. Got some friends from accounting school I still see and text on a regular basis, but that wasn't my path. That wasn't my calling. So anyway, we'll talk about the next one, going to UVU and the 4-year degree part of it, but also the trade school aspect of it, because that I feel like was really the first environment that I really felt like at home in and had all sorts of opportunities open up and really just kind of thrived. So that's it for tonight. I hope this is helping somebody out there.